Cool. There we go. Hi, everyone. If you're joining, welcome along. Um, we will be getting into our webinar in just a second. I'll give everyone a moment to arrive. Just a few housekeeping topics. We'll be going for 30 minutes. We are available after that for some Q&A. There is Q&A in this Zoom webinar. So if you want to drop some questions as we're going, please feel free to do so. But without further ado, let's get going. So hi, I'm Jonathan Corrie. I am the co-founder and the CEO of Precursive. We work with a mixture of mid-market and enterprise technology companies, helping their services organizations to evolve and improve their services delivery. I'm delighted to be joined by one of our customers, Stephen Elrod. Stephen, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, your role and your organization for a moment.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jonathan. As Jonathan said, my name's Stephen Elrod. I'm the Global Vice President of Professional Services for Degreed. Degreed is in the LXP, Learning Experience Platform space. We focus on skill development for our clients, helping them identify what skills they have, what skills they need to develop their talent in the future. We're focused mostly on the enterprise market, a SaaS organization, about 400 people strong.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. And he cleaned the background there, especially for this webinar. And also delighted to be joined by my partner in crime, Andy, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yep, thanks, Jonathan. So my name is Andy Mahood. I've spent a number of years in professional services before joining forces with Jonathan on Precursive. So as CTO, I'm responsible for leading our product and engineering teams.
Awesome. And these photos are what you look like pre-starting a startup, and I guess this is what we look like now. What we're going to cover today, some trends in the world of professional services, a spotlight on what Degreed has been doing in terms of evolving their services motion, and Rise of the Machines, a POV from our CTO on the world of AI, which I'm excited about. So I'm going to kick off with some trends. So I think the market at the moment is certainly an interesting one, very challenging. I think there's a mixture of challenges and opportunities, and there's this shift from growth at all costs to profitable growth, which is certainly having implications for any services organization at the moment. There's also a lot of post-sale consolidation, right, where customers pretty sick of playing anagram bingo. So they're looking at kind of how can we have a little bit more of a holistic experience with our customers. And as a result, there's a lot of consolidation, both in terms of teams and also in the manifestation of that in terms of the services offerings that people bring to market. So quite a few issues happening in the world of services. Another key trend is the shift of services moving under the CRO. I've seen a number of organizations now where previously or historically services was under the COO, the CFO, or the CCO, but increasingly now some folks in services waking up and having to be a lot more commercially aware, and therefore kind of commercial excellence and that services go to market critically important. And it's not just services leaders that are waking up to this, but it's boards and investors who've been paying attention now to the impact of services on customer acquisition, right? And seeing that those organizations that have really got that locked in, and that's something that Stephen's going to talk about a little bit later on, really seeing the impact of services on that customer acquisition. And then finally, of course, the AI hype thing, which can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different places. I think from a services standpoint, part of it is kind of like, what are we on the hook for, right? So if we're bringing AI propositions to market, what's the implications for services and the services wrappers that we provide to our customers? But at the same time, I think from a productivity standpoint, most organizations are on the hook for doing more with less or the same, right? So we've still got to deliver growth, but potentially with less people than we had in the past, or certainly less budget. And therefore, what's the role of AI, practically speaking, in supporting our services organization? And so we're going to go into some use cases that we've explored in our own organization and with our customers, but also, some of the more, I think, pragmatic things that you can do to get started in this area. So those are a few of the trends that we're seeing in the market. How does that cascade down into the world of services and what services teams are bringing to market? I think this is the common portfolio that really we're seeing amongst our customers in the marketplace. So there's a mixture of services that are being sold. On the left, you've got your more traditional enterprise, larger scale engagements, perhaps more traditional in nature, where We've got a very bespoke delivery. It's priced usually at T&M or fixed price with key billing milestones. And the emphasis there is on the governance and the control of those very large programs of work. However, SaaS, and in particular, organizations that have been deliberately building products to be more turnkey and how they're in terms of how they're onboarded, you're seeing these velocity services motions where people are working across multiple engagements, and the emphasis there is on ARR and time to value. And then finally, on the right, we've got the rise of subscriptions and really that consumption-based model, which is popular with investors because they like the kind of the repeatable and the durable revenue. But it's also because, again, services teams have realized the impact of services consumption to ARR growth rates. So again, that's a key trend that we're seeing. The final point that I want to make is that I think the best teams are really kind of thinking about their customer journey, not just over a 1-year time horizon. I'm sure many of you, like we do, have that customer journey slide from customer acquisition through onboarding to renewal and growth. But I think really now the best companies are kind of backing into this slightly differently and looking at it from a longer term time horizon, right? So how do we really architect that services catalog to take our customer on a journey and unlock additional value over time? And again, that's something that we're going to touch on with Stephen at Degreed and some of the design of the services catalog there. So just a few things that we're seeing in the marketplace. And with that, I'm delighted to bring in Stephen, who's going to talk a little bit about the services evolution at Degreed.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. So a little bit of background about our solution, services evolution at Degreed. We historically were a young SaaS startup where all services were for free, not fee. And we went through that journey just as many of us do. And over time decided we needed to just begin to charge for our services. And as we started down that journey, it really began the evolution of our professional services team. One of the first things we did as we tackled that strategy was to think about everything from a client-first focus, right? That's key and most important. And this had everything to do with from accelerating our time to value, everything under that umbrella, time to launch, time to readiness, to ensuring that professional services because even support post-launch, as Jonathan was just explaining, where we're coming in and helping not only drive value, but what I like to think about as accelerating, multiplying, and amplifying value post-launch, and how can services help do that? We've done a lot of that through ensuring that, yes, the revenue is important, but we're also thinking about services impact on other key metrics, NPS, CSAT, MAU, TAU, things along those lines. One of the other things as part of our evolution is over time in a young organization, as you grow up, most of your roles and departments begin to appear naturally, and they tend to start to create silos. Over time, we realized that our services organization was across multiple different functions and departments, which is okay in some scenarios. But for us, we needed to have one holistic leader, one holistic point of contact and strategy. When you have multiple different leaders supporting business billable resources, they have different strategies. They have different OKRs where they're really able to pull that red thread through all of our service engagements. So Degreed made the decision to centralize all of our services under a professional services umbrella. And now we have about 40 different individuals, consultants across our professional services org that are global, and they can deliver a mix of different services. This has made everything easier for our clients as well for ourselves internally. It also allowed us to kind of have a unified voice as we partnered with our cross-functional teams from product, success, and sales. The last piece is around the productization of services. This is a fun conversation to have as you, specifically for us, as you think about having to go to your client base and say, yesterday this was for free, tomorrow I'd like to charge you for that. How do you feel? So a couple of things we had to do in order to get this right. Number one was our cross-functional alignment. We had to have that internal buy-in and support. We had to go out and talk to our customers, and those were some scary conversations to have. But luckily, we were pleasantly surprised by how many of our clients said, "It's about time. You're our only vendor who wasn't charging us." And even in some scenarios, I was like, "Well, we're excited for Degreed. This shows your maturity, right? You're moving in the right direction." Don't get me wrong; there were some tough conversations, but we talked to our clients. We got their feedback. We helped them drive the strategy. We also utilized our CAB. We have a phenomenal client advisory board that we were able to tap into and kind of play with the strategy and feedback on. We also did external research. It's really important to have benchmarking data, talk to people out in the business. We utilized TSIA for some really phenomenal benchmarking to help us know where we needed to get to. And of course, again, goes back to the first box, a client first focus.
Cool. Just a quick question on that then. What advice would you have for others on this cross-functional alignment piece?
So think about it this way, right? You just don't underestimate the importance of change management, internal change management. We have to ensure that we are bringing our internal stakeholders and partners along this journey with us. It's a lot of change for them. So we focused on over communication. We focused on gathering feedback, right? Your internal stakeholders and partners have a lot of great information, rather through what they know about their role and how they work with clients, or to previous roles. We found a lot of great information around what they had done in other organizations. So over communicate, get feedback, and kind of talk about the with them, right? What's going to be in it for you as we move through this change? That was helpful. And I'm a big data-led leader. And so where you have the data, lean into the data. Use the benchmarking data that you gathered, share that back out internally to bring them on this journey with you.
Cool. Excellent. Well, we're going to zero in on this offerings piece now, because I think this was something that I found really interesting from your experience with a relatively young services organization, but that, in my opinion, has a pretty robust services catalog. So what's been some of your learnings in the design of these offerings?
With a lot of learnings. We love to iterate. We love to learn. I think the first thing I'd say is, even if you look at this screen, right? And so what we did is we went out and talked about how do we want to go to market with our services. And so we had designed our practice areas. And those are the key functions that we knew that our clients were going to be most interested, or categories our clients would be most interested, and we could sell our services. And then we wanted to hire into those particular practice areas. But we don't necessarily need to go out to market with the practice areas leading, or we don't want to go out to market with just the individual table of a catalog of services, right? That's can be kind of difficult to communicate. And so if what you see on the screen is how we tend to talk about our service catalog. At the highest level, yes, we have practice areas: talent and skills, adoption engagement, curation design, HR tech. And then we talk about solutions and outcomes. So within each of our practice areas, here's how we're going to help you. It's more about, we sell outcomes, not people. And so we'll help facilitate a skills focused shift. We're going to overcome barriers. We're going to optimize your tech stack. These are the things that really resonate with our clients. We found that our buyer persona can be across the board for us. We could sell into IT, we could sell into HR, we could sell into L&D, or even a business leader. So we had to talk about our services in a way that was easy for anybody across the business to understand, and tiptoe around jargon and nomenclature we typically wouldn't want to embrace. And then within all of this, we get into kind of the true service catalog, all of the details of services that we have that can support. Our lessons learned, so with that, are have a good marketing lens. Don't underestimate the importance of go-to-market strategy from a service catalog. Also, keep it simple. This is nice and easy. It's one slide. It doesn't show all of the services below it. Don't boil the ocean when it comes to your services either. You don't need that many. It's much easier to add to a catalog than it is to remove. And with that, keep a governance strategy top of mind, because you want to be able to maintain and control this. Your phone will ring every day with an idea for a new service that should be in that catalog. And they are great ideas, but you have to have a governance plan around how you will add, how you will edit, how you remove from your services. And lastly, keep it exciting, keep it innovative, keep a mix of services into it is always my advice. Anything that's all just stale or tactical services can kind of become boring to different clients as you're talking about it. We have some services that are really innovative and exciting and like groundbreaking, or can be product agnostic and just strategic. Yeah, we have some off-the-shelf technical service. So keep a good mix of your service catalog.
Cool. Love it. Lots of useful things there, I think. Let's turn to like the impact of that then. So we've talked a little bit about the mindset of the design of the services and aligning that with the customer journey and their needs and the simplicity associated with that. So we've highlighted some of the impacts here. Back to you, sir.
Yeah, I love this slide, man. And to your point earlier, right, the board's asking. Like, we put slides like this in our board deck now. We put this in our internal QBRs and MBRs. It's important to kind of show this impact that a services organization can have. So for us, as we started to do more bespoke and customized upfront implementation packages, we've been brought in early and earlier into the sales cycle, and we're coming in to help scope and customize the implementation and onboarding for our clients. And with that, we've been able to attribute an increase in win rates on our new logo. And that's a feather in my cap I'll wear all day, to be able to show that services is helping bring in that new ACV and those new logo acquisitions. So we've seen a uptick in increase when services is brought in at the right stage from a new logo acquisition standpoint. We've also seen an increase on the other end of that from our renewals. And so we have a number of services that play across the client journey, as you mentioned. And so outside of our implementation services, we have our accelerator or multiplier services that we tend to sell into our existing portfolio. We started to do a lot of analysis around when those services are purchased within these windows of their contracts. What's the impact to NRR? And again, we're seeing a large increase where clients are engaging with us, and we're seeing the higher NRR rates for clients that are purchasing services. And within that, right, you're seeing stickiness, you're seeing higher NPS, you're seeing higher TAU. These are the things we want as well, but I love highlighting the NRR metrics that we're able to attribute ourselves to now. And lastly, for us, the employee experience. We all know the joys of being a consultant. We've done it probably for many years, and it can be a very repetitive and monotonous job of, hello, my name is Steven, I'm here to kick off your project. Hello, my name is Steven, I'm here to kick off your project again and again. And so what we've done by centralizing our professional services organization is created a bigger bench of consultants for all of our services. We've been able to drink our own champagne and use our product to do this because we specialize in things like experiential learning, stretch assignments. But now as new service engagements come in, because we're a centralized services team, I have my primary resourcing structure where this type of service goes to this individual or this type of role. But now, either because of capacity or because of a stretch assignment, I can resource different types of services across my larger bench. And that's been really exciting for some consultants who have been in their role 3 and 4 years. And we've been able to kind of show growth potential, career development, or just breaking up their day into learning something.
I love it. There's kind of that sports analogy of you've got more utility players, right? You've got a more diverse team, different career paths. No, great insight. Conscious of the time, right? The future. There's a lot of things that will happen in the future, but we've zeroed in on probably 3 things here. So kind of going from left to right, tell us a little bit more about what we mean here by the true capacity of services.
Yeah, visibility. Like I said, I'm a data-led leader, and I'm really excited to get some more of those great data. Thanks to Precursive and our implementation of the platform, we're getting into things like capacity and resource and margin and forecasting. These are things that have somewhat been hypotheses in the past and somewhat been overly cumbersome for us to try to get to some of the data points. So having that visibility to move professional services into a more traditional P&L and being able to forecast effectively is going to be key for us in the future. And Precursive is making all of that happen for us. We'll move into a partner, right? We're reaching, as we're learning through Precursive, we're reaching capacity, and we need to determine our strategy to continue to grow and service our clients because we're seeing all of the ROI. So we'll look to build a more robust partner ecosystem. And then lastly, methodology. I'm a big fan of proprietary methodology. And so we have a homegrown methodology that we use across all of our service engagements. Over time, these things can grow to be stagnant and stale. If you think about a methodology, it should align to 2 key things, right? Your domain, your client, and your product. Those 2 things never stop evolving, right? My clients today are much different than my clients yesterday. The domain is much different. My product for sure doesn't look the same way as it did even 6 months ago. That means our methodology needs to continue to evolve. It needs to stay clean. It needs to stay simple. It needs to stay up to date and innovative in the way we engage with our clients. And so we will continuously work to iterate and fine tune our methodology.
It's great stuff. I also think those 2 things on the edge link to the piece in the middle, right? It's a lot of you joining this maybe looking at doing more things through partners. I was talking to a company this morning that's like, yeah, we're going to do more stuff through partners. And my next question was, how's your delivery methodology? Is it robust? Is it repeatable? And he's like, yeah, not so much. And I was like, well, it's going to be difficult to give that to a partner and say, here's the best way to do things. Also, from a capacity standpoint, how long does this stuff actually take? It's not just what happens on a good day, but what's the low, medium, and high level of effort Our CCO, Graham, who you know, brought a lot of that thinking in here. Awesome. Thank you, sir. We've got a couple of questions coming through, which we'll zero back in on the end, but we're going to jump across now, try and tie some of this together to the AI hype train. So over to my partner in crime, Mr. Mahood. Take it away, sir, in terms of some of this AI potential in PS.
Yeah, wonderful. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and explore, first of all, how we at Precursive view AI and its impacts on PS. And then I'm going to show how Precursive is taking advantage of AI and some of the AI tools that we're developing to assist in the delivery of packaged services. So to start with, the potential of AI in professional services is just huge. It does feel like it can be a hype train, as I think you introduced it as, Jonathan. But as AI continues to evolve, we're kind of seeing this huge transformation, and it's going to really disrupt the industry and many industries over the next decade. But as you said, we're all on the hook to do more with less. And one of the most immediate things that we can do with AI is to boost productivity. So an example of this could be using AI tools as a scribe, like a transcription service like Gong or Update AI. They're already being used as transcribe and summarize meetings, providing amazing insights, making it much easier to share recordings with people and get information out of those sessions that we're having. And we use these tools in really every team in the business. In fact, I think I joined a session last week a little bit early, and it was me, our customer's Gong bot, our Gong bot, and our Update AI bot. So I was kind of a bit outnumbered. So I think if that's the rise of the machines, I reckon we're probably okay for now, right? But it's really just the tip of the iceberg. AI is becoming increasingly capable. There's new tools and models coming out all the time, which means that there's new applications for what's possible. So if you want to really start thinking about the tasks that were once time consuming and labor intensive and making them automated, it means you can now open the door to new services that weren't potentially practical before. And this leads us into the implications for professional services. So what does that actually mean for your business as people start adopting AI? So do existing services lose their perceived value as people understand that they're being delivered through AI? Or do they retain value with a significant reduction in cost? Or does it mean you can be more competitive on price or provide better margins for specific services as a result of your investment in AI? Really, those cost dynamics start to change. So do the skills. So this is when you need to start to evaluate the activities that your teams are actually delivering, identifying what tasks can be supported by AI or what you can start offering that was never possible before. Okay, so the question then is, where do you begin? So the first step of the journey for everyone is learning. It's kind of what Stephen mentioned. So understanding how AI can be applied and how your customers are already using AI can really help. So Degreed, for example, had already started upskilling teams in this foundation of AI and its practical use cases. So Stephen, can you tell us more about what you were doing there and kind of upskilling your teams?
Yeah, you're exactly right. One of the first things that we wanted to do was understand where we were from a skills standpoint. And so looking at what skills sit within our current bench as it relates to AI, and AI skills can be broken down to a number of different things, but doing a skills gap analysis to where we are and then setting targets of where we want to go, and then the development and the enablement that we need to apply in order to get there. So we're in that process now of understanding the gaps and the targets to build that foundation, both for internal efficiency as well as evolving our outward focused services to our clients.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So this education is going to help mitigate risks by understanding the strengths and boundaries of the technology, but also like compliance concerns around the use of AI or questions that might be coming from customers into your teams, for example. So it's going to equip your teams to have those conversations with clients about the applications of AI. So we have been exploring, as Precursive, the applications of AI within Precursive. How does AI apply to a professional services automation solution? I'm sure you've all got wonderful ideas. It'd be great to hear those. So if you've got ideas, feel free to drop them in the chat and provide feedback as we go through. The first that we're going to cover is a feature that we've recently released called Magic Assign. So Magic Assign tackles the challenge of task-based resource assignment How do we allocate work to the appropriate resources, balancing availability, skill, region, and cost? And how do you do that across these high velocity services? The next is Risk Whisperer. So it's a bit of a tongue twister. It's a fun name that the team came up with. This is a proof of concept that was developed as part of an AI-themed hackathon held by our engineering teams. It's an experiment right now, but we expect to release something around this soon. It uses generative AI to categorize and suggest actions based on risks captured on your projects. And finally, we touch on the most ambitious, which is the idea behind Project Composer, is that there are often non-standard or enterprise projects that don't follow the typical methodology. And as a result, we can't leverage the same templates and automation of your PSA. So Project Composer uses, again, generative AI to build an entire project with project plan, risks, assignments, the lot, all from a single prompt. So I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes walking through how Precursive is designed for packaged services, incorporating these AI tools into your workflow. So those not familiar with Precursive is a modern PSA solution that works right from within Salesforce. So Precursive connects the demand coming in from the sales pipeline in Salesforce with the supply being the capacity of your teams in Precursive. So rather than PS becoming a silo in a separate tool, Precursive lives inside Salesforce where the wider teams can have visibility into the project's progress and the outcomes. I think I saw on Stephen's slide, he talked about PS being a fulcrum between sales, CS, and product. And it's really important to have that visibility across all of these different teams. So Precursive covers your entire end-to-end delivery, from picking up demand forecasting, transitioning into resource management, end-to-end project management, financial operations such as revenue recognition and billing, all the time connected with the customer through the customer workspace. And Precursive helps you untangle all those spreadsheets and apps that you have for time tracking, resource planning, project plans, all into one app within Salesforce. Okay, so let me jump into that demo now. I'm just going to take over control from Jonathan. So you should be seeing my Salesforce screen now, just to be sure.
Indeed.
Yeah. So Jonathan and Stephen spoke about packaging services. Precursive lets you define your service lines in Salesforce as a product, just as Stephen has done at Degreed. So as a salesperson, I can select the various products that are appropriate for the prospect. If I drill in to the products on this opportunity, it becomes clear that we've got a mixture of licenses and service-based products. We're also proposing a variety of packaged service products that are billed as a mixture of one-time or recurring. Where this becomes interesting for service delivery teams is that as a resource manager or someone responsible for like demand forecasting, what we really want is that when a deal looks likely, we can start forecasting that project. So this can be hard when we've got a variety of service offerings of varying size and complexity, not to mention like lots of different regions, skills, and differing requirements. So this is something Precursive solves for companies like Degreed. So Precursive is working alongside Salesforce to see what's happening in the sales pipeline. And as soon as the opportunity reaches a set probability or stage, then the project will be created and forecast. Because Salesforce understands your service lines and products you have in Salesforce, you're able to see this reflected in the project structure within Precursive. So each service line is defined as a budget and creates delivery work streams, which we call phases, based on how those services are delivered. For instance, here we separate managed services from implementation, but the implementation includes various add-on services. These are all separated as individual budgets. So as time is eventually booked to the project, we create a single thread from the consultant's time logged and billed back to the budget, and then back to the opportunity and the product for crystal clear traceability of that revenue all the way through. So now as a resource manager, when it comes to staffing that project, you'll know who has the availability and skill to deliver the work. And the resource plan shows an overview of the entire team's availability of both forecast and confirmed work. But from this request mode, we can see these roles from projects. And here I can see who's the best fit to be assigned as the project manager. Choosing to filter, here we go. So choosing to filter further, we can filter down based on different skills available. Alternatively, we can engage AI. So Magic Assign can perform an intelligent search across the whole department. So Magic Assign takes these inputs from the resources, availability, and capacity, the specific skills required for each task. As we can see, we've got different skills required against some of these different tasks, and even comparing the resource costs against what was forecast for the project. So Magic Assign identifies those who are available and ranks them here from left to right. So now I can just assign with one click. So from here, I can even adjust the skill level required. Stephen mentioned this as like these stretch assignments. So we may have people with different skill levels, but actually because of this, the complexity of this project, we want people that are only skill level 3 and above. So the impact of this is it means that Jason Momoa has actually dropped down in the ranking because Jason doesn't reach the skill qualification anymore. So now we can assign everything to Jennifer and those assignments can happen. So package delivery can often be resources in this task-based way, where specific skills against tasks can be assigned to different people on the team. Traditional PSA solutions are not designed for this way of working, and this highlights the importance of a skills matrix and the ability to map those skills to the work within each of our service lines. So we're seeing increasingly that package services are being delivered consulting-led. And so what I mean by this is that there's not a dedicated project manager, but a single consultant responsible for the delivery. This is where tools like Risk Whisperer can support the consultant and identify and manage those risks. So this provides similar controls and governance as a PM-led engagement. So this is an example of a risk captured, detailing the lack of data migration scope in this case. Risk Whisperer sits alongside and allows us to takes the details and categorizes and provides mitigating actions. If we don't like what we see, we can try again, see what it comes back with. And if we like what we can see, we can pocket that gem and save that against our insight. So Risk Whisperer uses generative AI to categorize and suggest actions based on risks captured on your projects. It's an experiment right now, but we expect to build and improve and release something in the future. So all feedback and ideas on this are welcome. The last part of the demo is a step away from package services. So we will always have these exceptions, the non-standard projects or the enterprise engagements that cannot be templatized in the same way. Or can they? So the idea behind Project Composer is to use generative AI to just describe the type of project that you want and let the computer build the project for you in the PSA. So let's try it. So this can take about a minute. So while it's running, I'm going to explain what's happening. So what's happening now behind the scenes is that we've entered that prompt, which you can see in the background there. So this prompt actually came from the opportunity description in this case, but we could equally pull this prompt in from like a meeting transcription captured from a discovery call, or even upload attachments like a statement of work, a requirements doc, or an RFP. Well, this prompt is sent over to OpenAI, which is the service that powers ChatGPT. We also leverage what Precursive already knows about your existing services, delivery methodologies, and roles, so these can be used appropriately. So we take the prompt provided and combine that with data from Precursive, including the account, the opportunity, project methodologies, roles, and rates. And this means that you can describe your own delivery methodology in natural language, and Precursive will use this to build the project. So you're not only providing the AI with this prompt that you can see here, but we're also providing specific prompts against each of our different roles and project categories and how the role should be used on the project. So for example, against the project manager role, we sort of apply a description to it to say something like project manager should be involved in the project all the way through for a minimum of 4 hours a week. And this will help the model know how much time to assign to the PM. The AI will also look to maximize the budget. It will even adjust the rates from the participants to maximize margin and schedule the project based on the information you provide. So this project was built in a few minutes. It took that prompt and built our multiple phases for us, even providing descriptions and dates. We can see from the Gantt that it's actually built out a work breakdown structure for us automatically based on the timings and the scope available. And it also generated a number of insights for us based on the light information that we provided in that one prompt. Now, the information you provide and the results you get back, at the moment, they're improved based on the amount of information you provide. So the ability to upload documentation provides it with more information and provides better results back. And we're continuing to explore new ideas and improve those we have looked at today. But I hope this gives you all a glimpse of what will soon be possible and inspire some ideas of your own. So while it might feel like AI is a hype, I'm certain that it's not just a trend. And then over the next decade, it's going to be quite transformative to the services that we're all delivering to customers. So we need to start learning, experimenting, and responsibly integrating AI into our workflows.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I mean, folks, if you've got ideas on other AI use cases, would love to hear them. There's still a few questions that we'll kind of pick up here. I know, Stephen, you've been very diligent in answering them. So thank you. But for those that have missed these, question that came in from Paige, which was you did not previously charge for services, but now you do, and therefore is implementation required, or is it voluntary? And the answer is we do require an implementation package, and that is chargeable. There's also an open question from Moose. Hey Moose, it's good to have you on, about being looped into the sales cycle earlier, which is something we've been trying to do with SMB clients, high velocity deals, which is sometimes detrimental. I mean, most of your customer base is enterprise. Are you doing more in mid-market now, Stephen, as well, would you say?
We probably more enterprise. We do have some mid-market deals.
Okay, cool. And like how have you found like just on this question about being brought in earlier, what have been some of your learnings about getting engaged earlier in the sales cycle or at the right time, which is obviously difficult to define depending on the deal.
Yeah, when is the right time? And we're still in this change, right? It is a culture shift for a lot of sales organizations. There's a sales and enablement aspect, which we worked with our sales enablement team to help with, but the bigger, more challenging piece is the culture shift. It's a different way of selling for some sales organizations, and so we're still working through a lot of that. So what we have found is battling the impact to prolonging the sales cycle with the win rates. So yeah, maybe that's accurate, but show me the proof, show me the data. And if it is, but I'm still increasing your win rate, is that not worth some aspect of an extended duration? And what is the duration, right? We looked at it in some scenarios, it was maybe 1 to 2 weeks. We also have found champions. That's been really helpful for us, is to have like champion networks. And so within our sales ecosystem, we have a couple of really great champions who are doing this really well, and we're highlighting them. We actually built some use cases around some really great stories where we attached services, we helped close the deal faster, the transition was cleaner, right? All of the things that happened. And so find your champions that can work with you, build some internal use cases to bring and shift this culture, which has been our wins. But we're still in the same boat, honestly. We're not knocking it out of the park in every region with every sales team, but for the most part, we're on the right track.
Yeah, I think I'll make a couple of comments on what I've observed and also what we do. Like, one is, if you're in that SMB or just more transactional selling cycle, you've really got to think about the assets that will enable sales to accurately sell and position services, whether that's SOWs, overviews of implementations, videos from your services team about what will happen post-sale that can enable them to talk on your behalf if you trust them to. And then say, look, we will, if it's really productized, then we can confirm this post-contract signature and ensure that this design is correct. And then you then do run the risk that, post order form for licenses signature, you've got to reframe some things around the services engagement because maybe something's been committed that shouldn't have been. But that's really the trade-off kind of between, like, in terms of when you actually sign up to those agreements. There was also a question from Rick on Precursive specific about preventing sales from selling more implementations during a time frame where insufficient resources are available to support. Is that supported through salesforce.com? I think that's more of I'll answer it from a product perspective. It's more of a process question though, right? Because you're never going to have a system prevent sales from moving deals forward or attaching products in Salesforce or anything like that, because the wheels come off that very quickly. The reality is most organizations don't really have a great demand forecast, and it takes a while to get there. It takes a while to get a good view of you might have your backlog, but in terms of forecasting demand, in terms of level of effort, roles, FTEing, getting used to that and seeing it move and change. But once you have it, you can then start proactively communicating to sales about lead times, potentially about slots. It just creates a different kind of conversation at the front end. The big thing is the notifications that you can get from CRM systems, be it Salesforce or if you're using Microsoft or whatever it is, or whatever your PSA tool is, about these deals are coming through and we want to be watching for them. I think as people get better at it, the demand forecasting moves earlier and earlier in the sales cycle. I don't know, Andy, if you would add a comment to that at all.
No, I'd agree. It comes back to I think something that Stephen mentioned around visibility and understanding the true capacity of your services, combining that with, stepping up that maturity a little bit more into sort of that demand forecasting. How can you actually sort of forecast that demand so you're not finding about it at close one, you're finding about it when you're in the pipeline. But ultimately, it comes down to partnering with sales. And like you said, no one's gonna approve any system that's sort of stopping people closing deals. So really, it's just about partnering with sales and making sure you're working as a team.
Yeah, and Rick, we've done the same internally in terms of these slots. They're actually, slots that are named after cheeses, because that's one of our values, is stay cheesy in the business. So you've got like a brie slot and a camembert slot, brie awesome. But then as you get into higher volumes, you have to have and higher throughput, you've got to have a more advanced discipline. Dalen, hey Dalen, hope you are well. Use case for AI: predicting when a customer will actually sign that SOW and start that project based on historical timeframes for the start of the engagement. Very, very true. I mean, we analyze sales cycle stages in Salesforce at Precursive. I don't know if you do the same thing at Degreed. So we look at how long does contracting take. I can tell you that it used to take 30 days. It now takes us 45 days at the moment. So I think we're doing okay. But no, I love the idea. I don't know if you're doing anything on predictive deal closure yet, Stephen.
No, we're not there yet. I look forward to it, and I agree. I will +1 that on any platform that'll help deliver that.
Cool. And then there was a question around, I think it's a good and important question. I think Jason, you asked it around capacity planning with regards to partners, which is a very fractious topic, right? Because you really have to define what types of partners you're talking about. I'm gonna plug a network now, which is the Services Delivery Alliance, which is I'll actually share my screen. So this is a network of services leaders. About 300 companies participate in this, who meet to discuss strategy and execution topics. And members of the Services Delivery Alliance, one of the gentlemen, Mustafa Fwazi, who runs PS at Linworks, actually contributed to that. Thank you, Moose. And within this network, we're focused a lot at the moment on building and maintaining partner ecosystems. So the thing is, you've really got to be careful about how you define third parties. And if you are bringing them in as part of a hybrid delivery model, then often what your peers will do, Jason, is they'll have those third parties track their time in the vendor's PSA or time management solution, whatever it is that you use. You want to make sure that those people are classified as partners in your PSA so you don't run into potentially employment and contracting laws in the future. If you're talking about the partner, the third party services partner is delivering on your behalf, on behalf of the first party, which is the client. In that scenario, usually the partner is keeping the vendor up to date in some shape or form. That can be using the tools that they use with their customer, their project management solution, their delivery solution, however it's done. Or it can be that you invite them into your PSA, into a portal, and they're updating more of a high-level plan with milestones and risks, particularly if you've got a more mature partner ecosystem, or you're wanting to secure some loyalty and best practices with those partners, that would be the route that I would go down. In terms of services partners capacity, that's a very different thing in terms of what amount of work can they take on. That's not usually handled in the PSA, but what people do in Salesforce is have, partner scorecards where they will see average launch times, NPS scores, number of risks and issues that were raised for those various partners. Robbie has posted some additional resources in the chat, which is the resource library for Precursive, where you'll find things on productization. Pricing came up in today's conversation, so head over there, and there's also a productizing services page. And we've run over by about 15 minutes, so thank you everyone for joining. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the world. And thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Any questions, please reach out. I'm sure Stephen will be happy to answer things on LinkedIn. Not speaking on your behalf, mate. But...
Yeah, of course. Please don't hesitate to connect, and I'm happy to talk more.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful Wednesday evening, morning, or lunchtime, wherever you are in the world. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.